Namaste and blessings, unity of Washington, D.C., gratitude and celebration to all of you. Thank you, Reverend Sylvia, and thank you, beloved community, for welcoming me once again to join you and to share with you as we together evolve and uplift the consciousness of creation. So if you're ready, let's just jump right on in. Words and the mindful manner in which we can wield our word to create, to demonstrate, and to manifest, to make word into flesh. So we use words in a variety of ways, but do we recognize that every word that we use to communicate, whether it's verbally, whether it's visually, as in an American Sign Language or another signed language, whether it's in writing, a text message, an email, something you share on social media, whether it's visually, as in an image, a JPEG, a GIF, a meme, because what do we say? A picture is worth 1,000 words. And in our thinking itself, all of these, excuse me, all of these are conveying ultimately what we believe. Every thought, every word, all of it, every image, every text message is communicating something specific about what we believe, because every word choice is connected to a thought we hold in consciousness, a belief that we have, a paradigm that we have. But are we mindful of this? I mean, how often do we examine to see if the words we're using are the most effective and life-affirming words that demonstrate the truth that we desire to experience? How often do we examine them, excavate them? How often? Because many of us spend more time examining the words on the back of a cereal box or the words within an instruction book that show the specifications of our new laptop. We spend more time focusing on those words than on the lexicon, the inner thesaurus that we are using to bring truth, to bring biases, to bring judgment or criticism. All of these words are bringing an energy into the universe. All of these words are transforming, transmuting, transcending something. Like I tell people, because we often will say things like being out of alignment. Ultimately, we cannot be out of alignment. You're either in alignment with peace and harmony, or you're in alignment with judgment and war, separation and lack, health and wellness. You're in alignment with something. Now, if you're in alignment with war, then yes, you are out of alignment with peace. But note, you are always in alignment with something. We are always communicating our beliefs, one way, shape, or form. So does it not benefit us to be mindful of how are we wielding, note, how are we wielding, and I use that word very specifically, how are we wielding our words? Because in the book, Your Word is Your Wand, Florence Scovel Shinn says, your word is your wand. The words, pay attention to this, the words that you speak create your destiny. But oftentimes we wield our word as if we are just starting at Hogwarts and we're trying to figure out how to wave that thing and cause something to levitate. But we are not doing it correctly. So tables are flipping and turning into cats and all kind of crazy stuff. Does it not benefit us to be exceptionally skillful and mindful stewards of the words that we are wielding? Because if these words truly are demonstrating destiny, crafting, forming, the very ground upon which our destiny and our life is being shaped, does it not benefit us to know these words with a level of intimacy and depth? Intimacy and depth. Because see, when we recognize that how we weave our words, because words have power, How are we weaving our words to create the very fabric of our life experience? Then we are able to do so consciously and mindfully, rather than operating from some unconscious, subconscious paradigm that was handed down to us from teachers and parents and old forms of consciousness, rather than being mindful of the tapestry which we are creating now to demonstrate peace, unity, oneness around the world. Yes, there is peace on earth. And yes, it begins with me in the thoughts I think and the words I speak and the feelings I feel and the manner in which I engage in action. Faith without works is dead. How do I go back? Because I do not act without having a belief. And my belief is demonstrated in the words that I use. So, what is a word? A word is a specific unit, a sound, an image that conveys some kind of concept. And that concept is basically, it's a symbol. It is something that is demonstrating that there is a thought form that this word represents. When I say the word food, you have an image that shows up in your mind of what food, a generic idea of food shows up. You do not see all foods or every food that ever was or ever will be. You have an idea of. And based upon what you think, feel, or believe about that, shows up as food. For example, if you are a vegan, you are not going to, when you hear the word food, generally you are not going to think of that which you don't eat. Your image of food is based upon what you would use to nourish yourself. But let's be mindful that no matter saying the word, no one is nourished by the word itself. Saying food does not feed. Saying water does not quench thirst. It's simply a symbol that is conveying something this. Now, why conveying something such as this? Now, why do I even reference that? Because the words we use are deeply connected to the thoughts we think. That's how misunderstandings and things occur, because sometimes we say things without really being mindful of it, and yet the word we are using is still conveying what we think, feel, or believe. So, for example, I'm going to give you a list of words, and I want you to just sit with what comes to your mind. What do you think? How would you define? How would you describe? How would you explain any of these words? God, spirit, soul, Christ, peace, harmony, commitment or conviction, faith, resistance, denial, new thought. How would you explain or define or describe these words if you were asked to do so? And recognize that the way in which you are describing it, defining, or explaining it is based upon what you think, feel, and believe about those words, about that concept. So pause, breathe in. So if we are going to acknowledge that the words we use are demonstrating and are weaving our destiny, then how do we want to proceed? In a mindful and conscious manner, not operating from that default setting of egoic consciousness, or as Don Miguel Ruiz says, from domestication, but we are consciously choosing to express and live life more abundantly, as Yeshua says, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. How do our words demonstrate this level of abundance? How do our words demonstrate the willingness to step into a new paradigm of consciousness, where we are purposefully and consciously aware of the words we use? For example, I've been telling folks, and I've probably told you before, such things as positive and negative is not as clear cut as the duality of it would imply. Because we say positive as if positive is good and negative is bad. And yet, if you look at a yin yang, positive, the masculine, negative, the feminine. Well, the feminine, the negative, the dark is also the intuitive. Is that bad? Look at a battery. There's a positive charge and a negative charge. Without the negative charge, and there's only a positive charge, there is no energy. So do we not need positive and negative? Do we not need masculine and feminine? Do we not need dark and light? And yet we vilify the dark. We vilify the negative. We vilify the feminine in certain cultures where the masculine is the prime directive. So what would happen if I said, I will no longer use the word negative in the manner in which I have been using it. I will no longer use the word positive in the manner in which I have been using them, because I understand that each of these words are in essence effective and good. Good meaning it is of God, in the way that Emma Curtis Hopkins says, my good is my God and my God is my good. They are synonymous. So then how do I now communicate about what I normally would have called negative, but I'm not using that word in that way anymore? How do I communicate that concept? How do I communicate this idea of balance? How do I share this idea? What does it mean to speak from a more life-affirming rather than a life-denying state of consciousness and awareness? We use words like to deny or to be in conflict or to resist. And yet each of these words, just like positive and negative, are not in and of themselves things to avoid. We say, what you resist persists. And we use it in a manner in which we're saying, don't resist, because if you resist it, like the thing will continue. And yet, do we not want to wear clothing that is fire resistant? Do we not want to use cookware that is stick resistant, like food won't stick? It's like Teflon. Do we not desire these things? So resist in this place. Oh, we compartmentalize. We do the spiritual Tupperware form of, oh. So to someone new to our teaching, to someone we are communicating with, to ourselves, are we clear about when resistance is a desirable life-affirming thing, when resistance is not? There's all forms of resistance. Watching a football game, if both teams chose not to resist, there's no game. Because resistance is, I am blocking you, I am tackling you. That's a form of resistance. I am resisting your ability to cross the goal line. So the words in and of themselves are not bad. The energy back of it is what we want to be mindful of. So not the word itself, but the paradigm, the consciousness back of the word, so that we can choose words that are most effective in how we are wielding and crafting and creating our destiny. Now, I understand there's this thing about linguistic convenience, and there are times, like if you're talking to a child, there are certain ways that you're going to communicate to that child, certain words you're going to use to match a 5-year-old understanding versus a 15-year-old understanding versus a 55-year-old's understanding. So for linguistic convenience, you may use words that match that person's level of comprehension and consciousness. Until such time, what do we say? When I was a child, I ate as a child, but when I was mature and an adult, I ate as a. So when I am a child, I will be nourished by that which is, and yet when I am adult and mature and awakening, I will be nourished by a different level of energy and consciousness. But once again, how am I anchored intimately and deeply to recognize what these words, what my lexicon, what my inner library of words, thoughts, consciousness, and paradigm. What are they communicating, and what are they crafting in manifesting my destiny, in laying the very foundation upon which, and the Word was God, the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh. If I am not mindful of what words I am using, then what am I bringing into concretized form? What destiny am I laying the foundation for if I am simply wah, 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 without being an effective steward of those words? I'm just waving my wand, shooting bolts of energy without being focused and conscious and aware. So the invitation is to really deeply study, practice, and live from a state of awareness in this thing we call new thought, from a state of awareness within new thought that says it is mindfully effective, consciously effective for me to excavate and examine and explore what all of these words mean to me. How many times have we questioned? I don't know how to explain new thought to people. I don't know how to tell people I practice religious science. I don't know how to tell people what unity is. So what do? We tell them what it's not. Well, it's like going to regular church, but it's not that dogmatic. Or it's like this, but it's not that. Well, it's like Buddhism and Christianity, but it's not your grandfather. Like, we tell people what it's not very often rather than telling them what it is. Why do we do that? Because we ourselves are not very clear on what is it? What words will best communicate what it really is? What does it mean that unity is a way of life? What does it mean that new thought is a philosophy? What does it mean that is it a religion? Is it a philosophy? Is it both and? Either or neither? Do we know? Does it matter? Yes. Because once again, anytime we are choosing to communicate in any of the ways that we communicate, what we are doing is expressing the energy of what we deeply believe, what we feel, as a person thinketh in their heart, what we deeply feel and what we are grounded and anchored in consciousness. We believe in God, the good, omnipotent. What does that mean? We use the words, but oftentimes we will blah, 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 blah. We'll say words without intimately and effectively and stewardly. What does it mean? I believe in God, the good. Let there be peace on earth. What is peace? What does it mean for me to let it be? So our work, our invitation is to ground ourselves, to anchor ourselves, and to mindfully excavate, explore, and examine before we express the words that we are using. Be careful. What does it say in the Bible? You have the power of life and death. You have the power to speak a blessing or a curse, to communicate a blessing or a curse in the words, in the manner in which you communicate. We already know that you can tell someone, we'll say things like, thank you. And we fill the energy up. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, both people said thank you, but one didn't mean it and the other one meant it more. Stop. 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 Same word, different energy. But if we don't really ground and anchor, then we cannot know from which place, which consciousness we are weaving and forming our destiny individually and collectively. How many words do I use that actually other people? How many words do I use that actually demonstrate that I have a bias towards this person or that person, that political affiliation or that religious affiliation? How many words do I use, or in which manner am I using these words that are saying a certain thing about someone else or about what I believe about me? Because oftentimes when we say certain things, they are a reflection of what we ourselves believe about ourselves. If God is all there is, and we are the very demonstration of Christ consciousness, does that not change the manner in which I speak of myself? Do I speak of myself as being somehow weak, somehow being incapable, somehow being inferior, or do I speak of myself as someone who is the very demonstration of power and presence of love made flesh? Do I use words that demonstrate my level of self-care, self-worth, self-love? You know, in New Thought, there's a song we often will sing. I love myself so much so that I can love you so much, so that you can love you so much, and then you can reciprocate and love me back. We say namaste, that which is the divine in me sees and recognizes itself in you. But how many times do we namaste as a simple gesture, and yet we don't see the divine in us? We don't recognize the divine in us. How am I giving someone else to drink from a cup that is empty? Because I'm not filling my cup. Or every time I fill my cup, I pour it out. I give it to you. I give it all to you. And then my cup is empty. And then I have to do something rather than giving from the overflow so that I am never depleted. The manner in which we communicate and use all of these vast, intricate words and concepts. If we were far more mindful and conscious, and we spoke with directed energy, directed form, knowing that every word we speak is either blessing or cursing. Every word we speak, every one we type, every one we say, every one we sign, every meme that we post, it is shifting the energy of the cosmos in some way, shape, or form. And then mine is to say, what is the intent behind these words? What is my why for saying this in the manner that I am saying it? Then maybe my level of stewardship as I wield my word, as I weave into creation this destiny for myself individually and for all collectively, because there is no simple I without all. There is one mind, and that mind is God. And that mind is powerful and wise and intelligent. And it is my mind now, and it is your mind now. There is only one life. That life is God. And it is magnificent and beautiful and delicious. And oh, my. And that is my life now, and it is your life now. But if I'm not communicating that, if I'm not with intent, and knowing my reason why I speak as I do and type as I do and post what I post and do whatever it is I am doing with this thing called words, then I am simply handing down what somebody else gave to me, and I'm just whatever. It is whatever. I really don't care. But I'm going to use these words as if, but I really don't care. So today, let's be invited to care and to show up in a far more powerful manner so that we consciously and purposefully are showing up as the very power and presence. As I said before, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh. When I was a fundamental Christian, we would say, you know, you may be the only Bible that some people get to read. We are the same way. I may be the only New Thought text that someone in the grocery store gets to read. You may be the only affirmation and declaration of truth that someone gets exposed to from new thought, standing in the bank, sitting in traffic, sitting in class, walking down the street and saying hi to a neighbor. Each one of us may be the only spiritual text that someone gets to read, someone gets exposed to, someone feels the energetic shifting happening as a result of our presence and our awareness. But if we're not grounded, if we're not anchored, then what are we actually doing? I mean, you know, the prayer of protection. So it says, the power of God protects me. Okay, so if I believe the power of God protects me, I say that, and the energy of it is in alignment with, as I speak, so do I feel, so do I believe. It is my consciousness. The power of God protects me. Then am I not called to show up and live that belief? Am I not called to move and have my beingness at a different level of consciousness? Does it not mean that there somehow should be less fear, less worry, less anxiety if I truly believe the power of God protects me, the love of God enfolds me? Then what am I being invited into? If I believe that the love of God enfolds me, then am I not also invited into a completely different level of radical self-care? How could I not be? Each line of the prayer, each line of the unity principles, each line of everything that we read and everything that we say is a call to action. There is no simple word without. There's an energy to the word. Even when I am saying words that I don't truly believe, there is still an energetic disconnect that is communicated nonetheless. We recognize that that level of, that's just talk. She don't really believe that. That's just, he's just running his mouth. He doesn't really believe that. How do you know? Because I see how they live. I see the discord. I see the disconnect. I see the dysfunction. So our invitation is to be that much more mindful, that much more disciplined, that much more effective in being the stewards who know what our lexicon is, who know the inner library, who know the inner sacred text that is being demonstrated in the very life we live, in the fruit that we bear. How is our faith, our words in action, how is our faith showing up as works? How are our words showing up as works? Because it is the work, it is the action, the activity of God upon itself that demonstrates, manifests, and creates our destiny individually and collectively. Our invitation today is wield our words wisely, weave the tapestry of that creation wisely, effectively, in an authentic and empowered manner. And so it is. Namaste.